All right, welcome back to Between Two Derms and to the podcast channel. So today is going to be both a YouTube and a podcast recording, and you guys want to stick around because I've got somebody to introduce you to. This is Dr. Benjamin Jones, and Dr. Jones, I'm excited to introduce to everybody because he's going to be making more regular appearances on the channel and on the podcast so that he can help, together we'll get a lot more content out. I've known Dr. Jones for a long time, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about him and let him introduce himself as well. So Dr. Jones, welcome to the channel, and tell us a little bit about your educational journey.
So happy to be here, Dustin. This is going to be a lot of fun. I became pretty interested in medicine in general early on in my life. As you know, my family, my dad had some health issues, and so we were in and out of the hospital quite a few times as I was growing up. And so I got exposed to it pretty early on. And then that really solidified in college. I took a lot of, biology, as we all do, kind of prepping for pre-med, and liked it. So I kind of stuck with it. So got my degree, got into medical school, and then I was pretty open to different specialties. And I had a friend on pretty much the first week of med school, and he said, you should really look into dermatology. This is a great field. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of research if you're interested in that. There's new medications coming out. There's a lot of procedures. So it seemed interesting to me. So I started doing some research in that. I went to school at the University of Utah. I did some work at the Huntsman Cancer Institute while I was there, and that kind of kept developing my interest in dermatology. And I did volunteer work, loved it. Then I took a year off and worked with the National Psoriasis Foundation, Dr. Callis Duffin and Dr. Kruger, who are at the University of Utah. And that, I think, really solidified that I was going to stick with dermatology. So, and, the rest is history. So.
Yeah, that's, it's fun because what a lot of the viewers and the listeners won't know is that you and I have known each other for a long time. And so I remember that we had a lot of conversations while we were both going through medical school, because I think, was I maybe 1 year ahead of you in medical school or something? So we had a lot of conversations on the phone about what specialty we were each interested in. For a long time, I was interested in emergency medicine. And I don't know if you had other interests along the way, anything else that was on your mind as to you could, realistically see yourself doing that?
Yeah, I really liked internal medicine. And early on, I considered emergency and then kind of moved away from that. I really liked internal medicine. I even considered intensivist medicine. But nothing really won out against dermatology, kind of stuck with it. But yeah, I do remember calling you several times through med school. Hey, man, what's going on? What are you doing? Yeah. We did that a lot. Yeah,
no, it was fun because for those that are listening or watching, it goes, I don't know when we first met each other, but it was elementary school age because we grew up 5 miles from each other, and probably first met playing like little league basketball type stuff because we were at rival high schools. So we played a lot of basketball against each other.
We were like rivals all growing up playing basketball. So, I think that's hilarious.
I know, it really is. But we were always good friends, but I think most of the time, because we were about the same height and played the same position, so we were guarding each other. Yeah. And you're a lefty, if I remember. And so it was just we were always matched up against each other. And so
I still remember one game we were playing. It must have been JV basketball, and it was at Firth High School Stadium. And I remember you just pulling this sweet fake and then jump shooting right over me. And I'll never forget that.
That was my one moment of glory. So, right. Yeah, I think you were a starter on the basketball team, but the darn coach would never start me on the basketball team. And since I lived with him, I complained about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little tough when, your dad's the coach.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we made a lot of memories. We did a lot of, activities together through scouts and community. And so we go back a long ways and kind of shared this journey. And Didn't both, necessarily plan to go into dermatology, but it worked out. And I was super happy when I heard that you'd matched into dermatology and put a lot of time into research and everything, like doing all the right stuff to get in. So it just has kind of been fun how it's worked out, how our paths have in many ways been similar, along that journey.
Very similar. Very similar.
So where are you practicing at right now?
I'm in Yakima, Washington, if you can believe that. I've been here for about a year and a half now. We love it. Yakima is it's pretty much central Washington. Mm-hmm. We're 2.5 hours from Seattle to the east. We're east of Seattle, about 4 hours from Spokane. So, but it's beautiful here. Tons of outdoor stuff. I've been trying to get you guys to come out here for a while. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we need to come and pay a visit for sure. Hopefully the summer will open up some of those opportunities.
I think you're staying in Boise, right? Like you've set up shop, and that's all she wrote for you guys.
Yeah, we're stuck in Boise, and I love it. I mean, it's a great place
awesome.
to be. It's not too far from family. It's a growing city, but it has everything that we could ever want to do. So a lot bigger than the little farm towns that we both grew up in. So.
Yeah. You're my high school mascot, I think, really characterizes where we grew up. We were the Shelley Russets. A potato is my mascot. So.
Yeah. So it's the most cliche Idaho thing.
I know.
Your mascot was a potato, and your high school literally looks like a potato seller, like
giant potato seller. Seriously.
Like I think they did that on purpose.
Need a lot to make fun of us.
No, but it was also like probably one of the less expensive designs for a school. Like you're all just potatoes, and you're going to go to school in a potato seller.
Yeah.
No, it was great.
That's funny.
And then for people, potatoes are a big thing there in Southeast Idaho. Like it's hard to overstate that, because we would literally get out of school for 2 weeks every fall just so all the kids could go work in the potato harvest.
Yeah, that or Spud Day. You remember Spud Day?
Yeah.
We have a parade that goes through our town. It takes like 5 minutes. And then they take it. At one point, they started getting a cement truck, filling it with mashed potatoes, digging a big hole in the baseball diamond, filling that, and then having a tug of war tournament over a mashed potato pit, which I won one year, by the way.
That's amazing. I actually didn't know that, because I've never participated in the Potato Days tug of war.
It's infamous now, man.
It doesn't get more Idaho than that.
No, it doesn't.
I remember one year that I was running the 5K with Spud Days, because I used to do a ton of running, and I was like winning this thing for almost the entire race. And I don't know what happened, but with like a half mile to go, I just started vomiting violently.
Oh my God, what?
And like, I've never had that happen in a race before. I mean, I've run, thousands and thousands of miles and competed in every long distance race. So like, I was like uncontrollably dry heaving for a half mile. And this guy that's never beat me in my life, like passes me, and I took second because I could not get off the ground.
Isn't it crazy how those are the moments that you never forget?
Yeah.
Like anytime you win the race and you're kind of expecting to, you forget that. But at that one time you have that bad experience and you never forget it.
Yeah. So
hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So what drove you to want to run like you did and still probably do? I mean, you love running and you do huge distances.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been much of a distance runner for a couple of years now. I've just kind of shifted into more weight training. I've really enjoyed that. It's been something different, but, I think my dad had me running very early on. My dad was always, a long distance runner. I remember as a kid going to Salt Lake City or to Boise and watching him run marathons and compete in all these races. And he was exercising every single day. And so a lot of times he had us just start running, and we were doing, something called the First Security Games in Idaho, which is like a youth track meet that would happen every summer. And, first time I was ever there, he signed me up for the 800-meter race. And I hadn't done any competing. and I took off like I was going to win that thing in the first 100 meters. And
yeah,
I was probably in like second or third grade at the most. And I mean, I absolutely died. I think my dad had to carry me the rest of the day. But I wasn't blessed with like incredible speed. I was never the kid that was like super fast. But over time, I just learned that I could endure pain. I could hurt a little bit and still like be okay. And I told this story a little bit in a keynote speech that I gave, and it's here on YouTube. So we'll put a little card up for those that want to listen to it. But I gave this keynote speech to a bunch of high school students about, the pathway to medicine that, if you want to get into healthcare. And one of the stories was this mile race that I did when I was in sixth grade. It was the first track meet for sixth graders, and it was the end of the year, because track was typically just seventh or eighth grade. And my dad put me in the mile race, and it was just, the story was about how I wanted to quit and my dad wouldn't let me quit. And he was running back and forth on the infield and yelling at me not to quit, because I kept telling him like I was going to step off the track. I wanted to quit. And overall, that just taught me like that I'm not going to die. And I like, it was like a pivotal moment in my life where I learned that I could do something hard and I'd be okay. And kind of recognized that a lot of people don't like to hurt. They're not willing to put themselves through a lot of pain. And if you can be comfortable with being uncomfortable, you can have some success. And so I realized that in distance running, that I could be a consistently, top performer, at least, in the state of Idaho. So I got into distance running. We had a great track and cross country team in high school. We won state and cross country all 4 years. I should have gone pro. So.
That's right. Got yourself a Nike contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Napoleon Dynamite style.
Right. Exactly.
So
cool.
it's just, it's fun to do something that you find out that you're good at. And I found out that I could be pretty decent at it. And so it was a lot easier to stick with when you were winning. So.
For sure. Well, there's a lot of corollaries there too, because I mean, you kind of got to get comfortable being uncomfortable going through with your medical training and, getting to where you're at. I mean, I think that's a perfect corollary for young people wanting to get into medicine. It's not a bed of roses. Like, it takes some work. It's super rewarding, but you got to put in the time and put in the hours and be okay with that.
Yeah. And I don't know what your sentiment was about going through medical school, but at least, my belief as I went through it and as I finished it, I didn't find that any one of the courses was any harder than anything I'd done in college. Like, the physiology course was challenging in both, chemistry, biochem, whatever it was. It was just the sheer volume of it. But each particular class was not more challenging than anything else you could have experienced in undergrad. You're doing double the coursework that you would have normally done.
For sure. Yeah. As I think back on it, I think I had a lot of people, everybody's got their own opinion. And so a lot of people said, well, do a degree that's not related to medicine if you're going to go into medicine, and give yourself some variety, which is great advice. I think for me, I would have preferred to have stuck, I did a history degree. I would have probably preferred to do something like biology or chemistry or, something more medically related. I think that first pass would have been really helpful for me going through med school, because then it wouldn't have been as overwhelming with the volume.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I did do a science degree going through undergrad. So I had a solid background in things when it came to like the anatomy and physiology and the biochemistry. And of course you did the prerequisites, but that doesn't necessarily give you a little deeper dive into some of that content.
Right. For sure.
So you practice in Yakima, Washington now. Before that, you practiced in Arizona for a little bit, and that was your first job right out of residency.
Exactly. Yeah. So I finished up residency in Utah, and I had kind of organized this first practice that I went to. We loved Arizona. The weather there is awesome. I mean, it's super hot in the summer, obviously. I think while I was there, it was the hottest summer on record. There was over 3 straight months of over 100 degrees each day. I mean, it was getting up into the 120s. So it makes sense to have a pool there.
Yeah, totally.
Which we did not. But so I loved Arizona. We really enjoyed it. wasn't really a good fit for us. And I kind of wanted to expand, some of the things that I was doing, not just being in the clinic setting and doing more of the procedures and more of what I had kind of trained to do in residency. So we found a good opportunity here. And so we made the leap, and it's been worthwhile. We've really liked it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it was another one of those things where we've had a lot of conversations about, your desire to get into more procedural dermatology. And so it's been cool how we've both supported each other as like we've gone along these different things. So
absolutely. Yeah. Even during residency, I was calling you and seeing how things were going. I mean, you had quite the journey as you left residency, and then with starting your own practice. I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it was challenging, and I don't know that I've told the story a lot on social media, but I took a job right out of residency that, on paper sounded like the perfect setup, and it really was not a good situation to get into. And thankfully I had, a good contract. I'd had attorneys review it, and ultimately had to leave that job, for my own sanity, but was able to not have a non-compete. So I didn't have to move. I didn't have to uproot my family or take my kids out of school. And I was able to, just go a few miles away and start a practice that has been, kind of fulfilling my dreams to just be a practice owner and really deliver the care that I want to my patients without having, some administrator from the hospital breathing down my neck and getting after me to hit certain numbers or targets. And because that's, not why any of us went into medicine, is to bow down to, administrators with a business degree.
Absolutely. That's definitely the advantage of private practice and, being your own boss, because then you get to set, the rubrics for success, and you get to say, this is where I feel like I want to invest my time. This is how I want to see patients, and you don't have anybody telling you how to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I love that. That's the same reason that, we decided to come out here to Yakima. I have a really good partner who started this practice about 20 years ago. We're kind of the only game in town, so we have a lot of demand, and so we're trying to grow. He's been awesome, but he's also tired. He wants to retire in a few years, and that makes sense. And so I'll take over from there. But I love the autonomy that running your own practice gives you.
Yeah, I mean, it really is so much different than working in a hospital system or something like that. And, having known you for so long, I can understand the type of care that your patients receive because of the type of person that you are. And so, your patients benefit greatly from that. And, in our conversations, I've done a lot on social media, but you're also kind of entering that social media space. Where do you see like your social media going? Like, what do you want to accomplish as you get out there and educate more?
Well, I think you said it. I mean, I've thought a lot about this, and really thought maybe my niche could be education. You do some phenomenal work in that regard. And that's what I like to do. I love teaching residents, some of the underclassmen, giving lectures to some of the emergency residents on dermatology while I was going through my training. That stuff is interesting to me, and I like that. And I think getting more evidence-based ideas and treatment options for people who may not have access to a dermatologist as easily as some is important. And so hopefully I can fulfill that role and make it fun at the same time.
Yeah, totally. So I want to hit you with a few questions. A lot of the audience knows me a little bit, but I want them to get to know you a little bit better. So first I'm going to ask you is, what's your skincare routine? What do you do on a morning and evening basis?
Yeah, so my skincare routine's pretty bland. I really like CeraVe and Cetaphil products. I basically am using CeraVe or Cetaphil face wash in the shower on a daily basis. I use their moisturizer lines as well. I typically am going to recommend a cream or an ointment to my patients. I personally prefer the cream. So I moisturize every day. As far as, Other things, I really like benzoyl peroxide, so I'll use that 2 or 3 times a week in the shower as well. If I ever have a little bit of rosacea or something, I typically will just use some topical clindamycin. What else? I love retinoids, and I mean, I feel like I'm on the retinoid soapbox all the time, and so I try to use tretinoin or tazarotene as much as I can. I wouldn't say I'm a every single night user, but definitely 4 or 5 times a week. And I think that makes a huge difference for people's skin and for many reasons.
Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, my regimen's pretty simple.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that for sure. Sunscreen every day?
No.
Okay.
I would say so if I'm planning on doing anything outside, yes. And I prefer Elta MD. That's kind of my go-to. I love the Elta MD Sport. I think that's a phenomenal product. You get the zinc oxide mineral sunscreen, but it goes on pretty clean. So if I'm going to do anything outside, if I'm golfing or if I'm working in the yard or if I'm going to go to the lake or something or go for a hike, absolutely. In the winter here, I'm not as religious about using sunscreen if I'm just, running errands or something outside. How about you?
No, every day. So, and that's
Nice.
like one of my things that I'm like all over social media about is like, if you just put it on every day, you're never going to get caught off guard. Like if you end up, just running out to the mailbox and a neighbor stops and talks to you for 20 minutes or something, or you got to run to the store unexpectedly, or, so I've just, like if I'm going to put on a moisturizer every morning anyway, it's going to be a moisturizer with sunscreen, whether it's the winter or the summer. And, I just feel like I spent so much time running, like in high school, junior high, college, without sunscreen. I was like, I got to protect it now, because you do skin cancer surgery, and I just look at these people, like these guys, where I'm like cutting a squamous cell off their head or the lady's nose, and I'm like, I never want to go through the things that I have to do to people.
100%. I mean, I preach that all day long. Maybe that's why I'm a little jaded, because I spend so much time trying to convince some of our older farmers and things who we operate on like monthly. You got to wear that big brimmed hat, man. You got to do it. You got to put on some sunscreen. So yeah, no, I think that's smart. Plus it gets you in the habit, right? If you're if you got your sunscreen in your moisturizer, you're putting it on, it just becomes habit. It's like brushing your teeth, you don't even think about it. So honestly, that's probably a really good approach.
Yeah. So, and that's just what I educate most people to try to do. Now, I'm not the best at reapplying my sunscreen. I definitely, don't always remember to do that when I'm walking out of work, for example. But, some products like a stick or a spray sunscreen definitely make that easier. And I could do a lot better job on my arms and, but, on my face.
Did you mean your guns? Is that what your guns?
On the guns, yeah. So, yeah, I was recently, and this will come out like in a few months, but I was doing a photo shoot for a skincare company, and I don't know that I can say who right now, but we were doing some video content, and I was with another dermatologist, and she was, she's very beautiful, and they wanted to make sure that her face was always in frame for the camera. And then with the stuff that we were doing, the feedback that came back is like, Dr. Portela, we're not so worried about your face, but make sure that you get your arm, your bicep in there. I'm like, okay, I can see.
Show it off, man.
Yeah, you're objectifying me,
That's really funny.
So it was just kind of funny to hear that feedback come back, to the director, as we were like watching the footage play back and everything. So
that's funny.
So, but yeah, so like, fitness is definitely something that's become more important to me. I've always been into it, but like just kind of changing things up. Any like specific workout routines or activities you like to do? I know, you're in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of hiking and biking and stuff, but like, what are you into?
Yeah. So I actually have a really good friend. He's actually one of our physician assistants, and he is just kind of like a anaerobic CrossFit realm guru. It's not really CrossFit, but those type of workouts, like high intensity, compound lifts. So we do a lot of that. About every weekend we'll get together and we'll do more of like a strength training one day, and then more of like an aerobic workout with some weights one day. I love running as well. I definitely am not in the long distance category like yourself. I feel like 6 miles is kind of my top out there. But I enjoy that. I really enjoy the solitude and getting out into nature. And I do not like running on a treadmill. I can't do it. So if I'm going to run, it's got to be outside, even if it's cold.
Yeah.
And besides that, Kristen, my fiance, and I, we do a ton of hikes. She loves biking. I like the mountain biking. She really likes the road biking. Mm-hmm. So we try to compromise there. We really want to get into some kayaking this year too. I mean, there's a lot of that around here. There's just so many options nowadays. You can do anything you want and get exercise. You just got to do it.
Totally. And you live in a great area for it. One thing that I've talked about before, and you see it as well, is, being physically active, healthy, impacts your skin a lot. And I don't know if you can elaborate on that, like what you see in your patients, those that are more physically active or those that are more sedentary, and the comorbid conditions that come along with that. Just speak to that a little bit.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things that comes to mind is just venous stasis. I just see so many problems in people's lower legs because we all get some level of venous stasis, right? Just over time, the efficiency of our vascular system, the venous complex that's in the lower extremities, it just gets less efficient. So you get more fluid collection in your lower legs. So if you're not moving around, if you're sitting down all the time, you're going to get a lot of fluid down there. That's going to lead to some skin breakdown. That's going to dry out the skin. Then you're going to get more rashes, potentially get clots. I mean, the list goes on. So I'm constantly harping about wearing compression stockings, being active. Those are important things. And that's one example. So there's a huge correlation. And I think maybe it has more to do with the gestalt of, having good habits, being active, eating healthy. All of our organ systems, including our skin, all are going to interact together. Our immune system lives in our skin, so by doing the right things with your exercise and your diet, that's going to naturally affect every single organ system you have, including your skin.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So as we kind of wrap things up here, where can people find you on social media at? What platforms are you on, and what's your handle?
Yeah, so I'm DermXMD, and we're going to be rolling out some TikTok videos to start with, and then I'll likely be kind of correlating both our Instagram, TikTok, and eventually some longer, long-form YouTube videos within the next 2 or 3 weeks. But we're kind of at the start where you're the seasoned veteran. So again, I've been asking for your advice there, which has been really helpful. So thanks for that. But so my handle is DermXMD, just like it sounds.
And we'll make sure that's
where you'll find me.
The video description and the podcast show notes and stuff. But I'm excited to have you as a more regular, guest here on the podcast, and basically a co-host, because, this is an important medium to get out there for people that are commuting, driving in their car, and be able to provide, good health information out there. And so we'll have a lot of topics that we can cover and just have some fun conversations, and hopefully have some fun and things to reminisce on, and people will find that entertaining. And so those that are watching or listening, definitely leave comments, send DMs, let us know what topics, you would like two dermatologists to address as we, continue these talks. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I know that. So hopefully everybody else will have a lot of fun listening or watching along with Between Two Derms, the podcast, and, the video portion that'll be up there on YouTube.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. This is going to be a lot of fun, Dustin. You've done a fantastic job with your social media and your education for people. And so I'm really excited to do the podcast with you. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blast. So thank you for, kind of joining this new inaugural episode of Between Two Derms. And I'm just stoked to make this a regular thing, Ben.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be fun.
All right. And to the audience, we'll see you next time.